right, so this is John Thune's hand has been forced by the liberal hive mind, said to me by Kura. So I just found out about this because of, you know, him in chat. So let's see what's going on here. Let's see. Philip says, an actual convo means putting aside the goal of winning the argument. Yeah, it's just like the actual discourse is not actually concerned with winning the conversation. It's, you know, about actually having a conversation, right?
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left.
This work center has been accident-free since Jeff left. That's a fucking sign. Holy shit. It sucks to have a raw knuckle on my dominant hand and it won't heal until sleep. Ooh, yeah. At least put a band-aid on it, right? Like, oh my goodness.
And here's the meme of the day, brought to you by 5mind.com. Friends, the pressure campaign is mounting, and while this is certainly still an uphill battle, once again, update by update, the path seems clearer and clearer towards potentially passing the SAVE Act. In other words, exactly as I've been saying, Senate Leader John Thune is basically full of shit. He continues to suggest that the SAVE Act simply cannot be passed, and rather than actually lobbying to get it done, he wants to turn it into a campaign issue, moving into the midterms.
So I'm probably not going to get to this particular stream, but yeah, so as Chibi Reviews pointed out, right, they didn't get the Screen Act, but they did get the COSA Act passed, even though it hasn't been made into a law yet, right? It hasn't gone completely through the process, but like, not COSA, the Kids Act, right? And the thing about that is they want you to have an ID present to use the computer, but they don't want you to have an ID to vote. Now, I know other people have pointed this out, and I still have to point this out because, like, the naked apparentness of, like the apparent, like, and naked objective of this is so obvious that, again, it would be an insult to the intelligence of my viewers to, like, have to explain it in extraneous detail, right? Like, we all know what it is. We all know exactly why it is you wouldn't want an ID for voters, but you would want an ID for, you know, access to the internet, right? What happened when the United Kingdom like lowered the age to vote? Oh yeah, it turned out like when everyone started, you know, now 16-year-olds can vote, but you know what 16-year-olds don't have? They don't have access to anything that's blocked based off of an age restriction for everyone under 18. So now whatever the government decides that the under 16, the 16, that's not under 16, it's like at 16, right? So anyone below 18, so between 17 and 16, yeah, they just, all they get is whatever the hell the government wants them to see. Anything the government doesn't want them to see doesn't get to them, right? So they get to control the information. So it's kind of interesting how that acts, right? But that's the United Kingdom, obviously. It's not quite the same in the United States, except for the fact that, like, it can still be exploited. Again, it's like, don't need an ID to apparently cross over into the country that crosses borders, right? But then you can, you know, you don't need an ID to vote, but you need an ID to access the internet. Huh, it's interesting how that works, eh? So, let's see. Riot sign lol. I have 3 times, but sweat and movement makes it loose, but I want to color. I mean, again, it's entirely fair. Just like, don't hurt yourself doing that. They don't even try to dissimulate the agenda anymore. Yeah, they're absolutely just like being they know, you know, and they know that you can't really individually do anything about it, and that's part of the demoralization.
By the president when he says he wants you to stay in session, wants you to pass the Save America Act?
Well, I think the president, I've heard from a couple times this morning on issues that he cares about. Wouldn't say I'm isolated, no. I mean, I've been very clear about the prospects for the Save America Act, and the only thing I've said all along is we have voted on the Save America Act 5 times. It was the pending business on
And then apparently, you know what? If I, why not make them vote on it a sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th time, right? Just keep sending it every time. It's like, we're going to keep sending it until you actually sign it or you sign something similar to it, right? There's probably some modifications that you could make to the SAVE Act that would actually make it significantly more effective. But, you know, I digress. That would be a case-by-case basis.
The floor of the Senate for over 2 weeks. And I am willing to, in any way possible, get that across the finish line if there is a path to do it. But there are two realities and two facts you have to deal with. And the first is...
But there are two realities. Okay, that's not a good sign.
There are no Democrats who are going to vote for this. All 47 voted against the SAVE Act 5 times. So let's make this an issue in the campaign. How about we go out and turn our fire on Democrats and make it about them?
Turn it into a
Let's turn it into a campaign issue. You mean the campaign that the Democrats are going to use illegals to pad their vote? Is this guy retarded? Does he not understand the purpose of the SAVE Act? Even if you disagree with like the what the SAVE Act will actually do, right? The explicit purpose of the SAVE Act is to mitigate the ability of illegals and immigrants that are not naturalized as citizens from voting, right? Because again, the only reason you wouldn't want the voter ID is if you want to be able to cheat the system. So this guy's actually either lying or he's a fucking retard. And considering, again, his position, I'm going to go with the first, not the latter.
campaign issue, he says, during a Republican down season. Think about how stupid that is, as if voter ID, an ongoing issue that's not exactly something new to the Democrat-Republican dynamic, is now going to be enough. Flip the script on Democrats. Well, obviously, it probably should. In reality, it isn't. And probably the most devastating and sobering reality is that there is no path forward from 2026 to 2028 and possibly even further, because if Democrats regain the House, it's over. It's freaking over.
Weird, my last chat didn't show up for you. I don't think it did. Yeah, I don't see a chat from you. Hold on, let me check to see if it's on the actual... Yeah, no, it didn't show up. Do you believe in the Uniparty? Basically, yes. Obviously, not all Republicans and not all Democrats are the same thing, so the Uniparty isn't just like the parties themselves, right? In fact, I believe that the Republican Party can be hijacked, to be perfectly honest. And the way we can hijack the Republican Party, we can take notes from the New Hampshire Libertarians, because the New Hampshire Libertarians are doing really fucking well, right? The way that they're doing really fucking well is they basically booted out the neocons from the Republican Party and took over the Republican Party. Right? So as someone who has a strongly libertarian bend, including things like destroying the social welfare system, which, by the way, would disincentivize a lot of these immigrants from coming into the country if they can no longer mooch off the government because, well, now you're not getting any money. And by the way, we're going to increase property rights. So that means that if you try to steal from a shop, you can get your head blown off, and then the shop owner will be absolutely within his rights. We can just let him go, right? Those two changes would cause a lot of changes in the way people behave in the first place, right? You'd be less incentivized to come into the United States to mooch off people if, again, like a property owner can fucking blast your ass for, again, threatening his life or his property. And if you're not going to get any kind of social benefit from any of these social networks, not networks, these social systems, because they just, honestly, most of them don't exist anymore, right? So that alone would actually get a lot of people to self-deport. And we see this because this is exactly what happened with a lot of the people self-deporting in Europe right now from various countries. You know, when you remove their access to the things that they thought were going to make them, their lives better, there's no reason to stay anymore, right? And for the people with it's a safety issue, right? And it's like, oh yeah, I allegedly left to escape, X, Y, or Z. I mean, just throw them in the box when they commit a crime, right? It's like, oh yeah, we're no longer doing the whole black robe judge thing. Where they just like let people go. Now just throw his ass in the box, right? Like there are actual solutions. There's not a single specific solution to the problem, but there are a lot of small solutions that would compound into a massive what would you say? That could compile into a massive effect. Yeah, but yeah, again, I digress. Another thing that would help is removing the copyright and patent protections from a lot of companies, right? No longer can you hold on to something for 75 years, 100 years plus no, life of a author plus 75 years. If we're gonna, keep a minimal copyright law system like 25 years at max. Also, no particular regulation, benefits for the big corporations where they get to, be the only ones who can pay to actually function because they're the only ones big enough to pay the regulations. It's like, they take away all those regulations and watch the smaller business owners like pop up, and we'll see who the people end up choosing when it comes to like, oh yeah, this company only employs Indians. This company actually employs locals. I have a sneaking suspicion people's behaviors will shock a lot of people. Let's see. You cannot do that. How will I be able to cheat? Exactly, right? YouTube doing weird shit again. The Unicorn Party. UK. To be fair, the mainstream the mainstream Democrat and Republican are neoliberal and neoconservatives. And they are, when you look at them, basically left and right-wing Hegelian. So it's like, yeah, they are. It is literally a uniparty. A left and a right Hegelian are still Hegelian, even if they disagree on how to be Hegelian, right? So they're still going to back each other. The UK has YouTube by the bells, and any wrong thing will be dealt with UK efficiency. They could do it the way they can deal with UK the same way they deal with fucking 4chan, right? Well, of course they're gonna have to do what the government says. The government has guns. Okay. What the fuck is the United Kingdom gonna do to 4chan? The United Kingdom is gonna sue 4chan again? They're gonna send them another picture of a hamster, right? They're just gonna send them another picture of a hamster, right? Okay, came over here to share. O'Keefe posted a new expose on X where he got Eminem's primary ballot in Detroit without having to provide any ID. I guess YouTube had O'Keefe name blocked. That's interesting. I don't know why that would be the case.
Meanwhile, there is still clearly a concrete path to get it done right now, and thankfully, there's two people still shining a light on that dimmed path. We've got some updates here from two hardworking patriots, one from Mike Lee and one from Scott Pressler. Let me show you guys what's going on. Let's go ahead and counter some of the doom and gloom rhetoric being pushed by John Thune. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Okay, friends, so let's start off with probably the most consequential update. I'd say this is probably the only thing still signaling a sliver of hope. Representative Keith Self writes, breaking, 20 Senate patriots have stepped up and pledged to work through the recess to pass the Save America Act. The number is now up to 20, which is strong enough of a number to actually cancel the recess altogether. And the reason I said this is the most consequential is because this, of course, now puts Senator John Thune's feet to the fire. For some reason, he's dying for this recess. He thinks the Senate recess is incredibly important. He believes the candidates need to get back to their states and campaign ahead of the midterms. Now, first of all, I think that would be true if Democrats were in a really strong position to flip the Senate, and you had to kind of flip the script on that. But right now, as it stands, Republicans are actually in a very competitive position to retain the Senate, especially with Abdul El-Sayed now winning the Democrat nomination for the Senate seat in Michigan. The odds of the Democrats winning in that race is now plummeting. It's almost at a 50-50 chance at this point, and that's before.
Again, do not underestimate the Republicans' capacity to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory.
Before the campaign even started. Is it important for senators to get back? Sure. It's a bigger priority, especially given the context of the current Senate race, finishing the damn job in Washington. And now the pressure is on. This whole call to cancel the recess and get to work is no longer something that John Thune can brush to the side and pretend doesn't exist. No, he has to address it head on. And this is where we get to the second update. It appears as though the conversation now all of a sudden is headed towards the right direction.
I just came from a very productive meeting with Senate Republicans, and the conversation has shifted in a very favorable direction. We're talking now much more about how best to do this, not whether to stay and work on the Save America Act, but what procedural vehicle to use in order to get this thing done. So, look, I always, this is a step-by-step process. I don't want to proclaim victory, but the conversation has moved in a favorable direction. I want to thank
By the way, always remember that there was a constitutional amendment to simplify this process to where laws that were passed in the Congress and the Senate would have to be single subject, and that the nature and like subject matter and function of the proposed law would be clearly articulated in the title of the submitted bill, and Congress and the Senate both declined that. So yeah, a lot of this could have been avoided, but it turns out getting kickbacks and getting, fucking over the American people, it's too much of a lucrative business.
Senate Majority Leader John Thune and our whip, John Barrasso, for leading a very productive discussion today.
Okay, he didn't explain why he doesn't want to actually vote for the SAVE Act, right? You may have real complaints about the SAVE Act, and one of my complaints is that like the SAVE Act actually just doubles laws. That it's just a lot of the SAVE Act is just redundancy, to be perfectly honest, right? It doesn't actually add new laws in the sense that, except for like just numerically, some of the actual what would you call provisions of the SAVE Act are literally things that are already laws. It would just, now there's two laws that say basically the identical thing, right? So if it didn't work the first time, not entirely sure why it would work the second time, but like that would be an actual complaint you could make about the SAVE Act, right? He hasn't made any complaint that I can discern about why he doesn't want to do this.
Interesting. Now all of a sudden they're talking about how they can get it done, which I'd say is a huge improvement from John Thune's doom and gloom nonsense that we've been hearing. Here's where we get to the logistics part. Well, how exactly would that even happen? Would that even look? And that's where Scott Pressler comes in, spitting the facts.
The funding is going to be to the tune of $10 billion. So it is going to withstand the Byrd rule. This is not just photo ID and proof of citizenship. This is funding for photo ID and proof of citizenship. Trump asked for the Save America Act every day. We need the Senate on board. And people that are likely not going to support us, Benny, are Senator Mitch McConnell, we wish him well. Senator Murkowski, I'm asking Alaska to vote yes to defeat ranked choice voting this November. And if she doesn't support Save America, we will primary her peacefully in 2028.
Yes, primary all, not on the basis of the Save America Act per se, but primary all of these fucking people who are, again, cooperating with the Communist Party, the fucking Uniparty. Primary all of them. Any fucking neocon, primary them, right? Just get these fuckers out. Leave them fucking destitute.
We need Collins on board. She voted for the Mike Lee amendment, but we need her to be the 49th vote. And then Tillis, we need him on board. And Cornyn, I'm not sure if he will. So to anybody listening, tell Senator Fetterman he's in the fight of his life to maintain his Senate seat. If he votes for the Save America Act, we will support him, but he must be loyal to photo voter ID and proof of citizenship. And then once we get our 50 votes, Benny, for budget reconciliation, JD Vance can come in as the 51st vote, and we will get the country-saving Save America Act funding.
And so once again,
I get it. I'm not entirely sure that this act will be as effective as they are saying it will, because again, a number of the provisions in the act, as have already been shown, are just restatements of laws that already exist and just aren't enforced, right? So we don't even need the acts per se. We just need to enforce the laws as they are already on the books. Because if you just pass the Save America Act and you don't do anything else, like get these fucking judges who are activists off of the fucking bench, then all that's going to happen is some fucking activist judge is going to eventually just ignore the SAVE Act, or going to declare the SAVE Act illegitimate or unconstitutional, and then we're just back to square one. So the SAVE Act itself, I get it, but I don't really think that it's enough, to be perfectly honest. It might be a decent step in the right direction symbolically, but pragmatically speaking, I'm a little doubtful that this would have the intended effect, only because we already know that there's a large contingent of law enforcement that just doesn't enforce the fucking actual laws.
it seems feasible at the very least. It seems there is, in fact, a path forward.
How do you get the judges out? Okay, hold on. Let me pull it up. There's actually an easy way. We've never done this before, but it's very clearly in the Constitution. Okay, my computer is crashing. That's a fucking terrible thing. Okay, here we go. Give me one moment. Okay. If this damn program will load correctly. So there's 3 ways we can do this. 2 of them are from the perspective of most Americans, very radical, but they are completely constitutional. And the other one is precedented, but it also is a absolute abject pain in the ass. Okay, now I'm gotta wait for this to load as I'm crashing again, right? Okay, now the actual program is Here we go. All right, here we go. So let's read Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution. Section 1. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as Congress may, from time to time, ordain and establish. The judges both of the Supreme and inferior courts shall hold offices during good behavior and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. So I want you to pay close attention to the wording. Let's do this sentence right here, right? Judges, both the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior. This is the thing right here. Good behavior. That is easy. That is actually easy to define if you don't have some fucking like living document, idiot in charge of like overviewing this shit. Is their conduct actually good in the sense of, and again, how do we define good in this sense? Well, let's look at the behavior thing. What is the behavior of a judge? In order to understand what good behavior of a judge is, you have to ask what behavior is befitting of a judge, right? And one of the things is impartiality, which activist judges are not. So right there, we can already conceive of getting these people out because of the good behavior clause. We have never actually acted on this, even though this has been right here the entire time. And the reason why we probably have never acted on this particular clause is because this would probably be quite explosive. The other way is by impeachment. So we'll go through the rest of this, right? There's a third way that's actually listed in this first section as well, but I'll get back to that in the last one because that would actually be explosive, but it is theoretically possible. Let's see. So section 2. The judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority, to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, consuls, to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between 2 or more states, between a state and citizens or another state, between the citizens of different states, between citizens of the same state, claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or the citizen thereof, foreign states, citizens or subjects. In all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, and those in which the state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. In all other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, both as to law and fact, with such exceptions under such regulation as Congress shall make. So, by the way, okay, no, I'll say that for after we get through this. The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crimes shall have been committed, but when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such place or places as Congress may by law have directed. I can't read right now. Section 3. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort, No person shall be convicted of treason unless the testimony to witnesses to the same overt act or confessions in open court. Congress shall have power to declare the punishment treason, and but no attainer of treason shall work corruption of blood, forfeiture, except during life of a person attainted. Okay, hold on. I'm just gonna stop everything and then restart it.
One eternity later.
All right. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on testimony of two witnesses to the same act, overt act, are in confession in open court. The Congress shall have power to declare punishment of treason, but no attainer of treason shall work corruption of blood, forfeiture, except forfeiture, except during the life of the person attainted. Let's see. Okay, that doesn't tell me. Okay. So anyway, as I was saying before I got cut off, right? Let's see. It's not just the good behavior clause we could leverage, and it's not just the impeachment that we saw down here that we could leverage to get bad judges out of office. There's actually a more radical, but technically still constitutional method, and that's Congress can just dismiss the entire inferior court. We can see this just here. It's like judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the judicial part that is actually co-equal with the president and the Congress, right? Because all executive power is vested in one person, the president, but also the legislative power is basically rooted in the Supreme Court, and the legislative power is in the Congress. But here we go. And in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. Here we go. From time to time. So this is not one continuous lower court that actually persists from the beginning of the country all the way to its end. No, Congress has the ability to dissolve the inferior court and then reestablish the inferior court, to ordain and establish it. So, yeah, one way that we could deal with, hypothetically, right, if this becomes like a real issue, is we could hypothetically dissolve the entirety of the inferior court and then reestablish it. This is probably not going to happen, but this is something that is theoretically possible, right? So, there we go. I don't know where the fuck I left off. I'm pretty sure I got past here, though.
You've been hearing. Here's where we get to the logistics part. Well, how exactly would that even happen? Would that even look? And that's where Scott Pressler comes in, spitting the facts.
The funding is going to be to the tune of $10 billion. So it is going to withstand the Byrd rule. This is not just photo ID and proof of act funding.
Okay, so we're around here where we cut off.
And so once again, it seems feasible at the very least. It seems there is in fact a path forward, and it doesn't even necessarily seem like this insurmountable mountain, this impossible trek. No, it seems actually rather simple. And frankly, it seems to me that not only is Scott Pressler doing invaluable work here, but it seems like he's doing the work that Senate Leader John Thune probably should be. Why is nobody trying to form an alliance on the SAVE Act with John Fetterman, for instance? Why is nobody applying pressure on Tom Tillis?
Because, again, it's the uniparty. A lot of the people on the right are called rhinos, i.e. Republican in name only, because they're not actually distinct from the Democrats in any meaningful way. They want the same end goal. The only difference is the speed at which they actually move from point A to point B, right? Again, a left Hegelian and a right Hegelian are still Hegelians, even if they have disagreements on the minutia, right?
Or whipping Cornyn into shape. Susan Collins appears like she's this close to doing the right thing, and yet there's no internal pressure campaign. Now, when it comes to Mitch McConnell, the question still remains...
I mean, that's also why they call Republicans spineless too, right?
Where the fuck is this guy? And why is he so adamant in his non-support for Reconciliation 3.0? But the point being, There's an obvious path. You only need 50 votes, and if some of these people have certain issues with the SAVE Act, or certain elements or implementations of the SAVE Act, well then frickin' iron it out. Make the portions that make it into reconciliation undeniable, unimpeachable. Work to get the job done. Get the amendments that are required so that at the very least the important elements of the SAVE Act end up making it through.
I mean, yeah, again, as I said, the issue with the SAVE Act is, again, a lot of the provisions of the SAVE Act are just redundancies of laws that already exist. And if they weren't enforcing laws that already exist on the books, I'm not entirely sure that adding new laws that are mostly copies of older laws is actually going to do anything, right? So, like, I like the idea. You should have voter ID. You should require showing a valid ID to vote, and then also being subject to steep and harsh punishments if you, again, like, vote with, you know, in the system fraudulently, or, you know, but I digress.
The fact is, there is a path forward. The votes are there. You need 50 senators plus J.D. Vance's signature. The next question, I guess, would be the Byrd rule, but we spoke about this previously. There's a clear budget implication here. Funnily enough, I think actually Zoran Mamdani indirectly kind of proved that point. You know, he's launching his little government-run grocery stores here, and while part of these government grocery stores is ID verification.
How are you going to keep...
You need ID to buy groceries. Again, as I said it earlier, they want you to have ID to use the fucking internet, right? But they also want ID for you to apparently buy groceries. What the fuck are we doing here? Like, we all know why they don't want ID for voting. It's because fuckers like this actually want people who are ineligible to vote to be able to vote. And if you can't check the ID, and therefore whether or not a vote is valid, then... yeah, I wonder the party. I wonder why the party of fucking infinite illegitimate immigration might actually be incentivized to not want voting ID, right?
people from taking advantage of that, you know, that deal basically, and is there going to be a limit on the number of items that someone can take that are discounted at that level from that essential basket?
So our RFP makes very clear that this is a program for New Yorkers to be able to put food on the table, not a program.
Yeah, I came back just to finish this video, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah, my internet just like died momentarily for a bit, so since I don't even have minutes on my phone because I'm still waiting for that to be resolved. I couldn't even put out like a thing on Twitter, be like, "Hey, stream died," right?
For people to be able to make a quick buck through reselling. I'm going to pass it over to our EDC head, G Pack, to add some additional details.
Oh yeah, don't ask me. Ask the person that that we had trained specifically for this to lie about this question.
Yes, if you look at our RFP for the operator, we are looking to make sure that we target New Yorkers, whether it be at sort of a library card-esque, and also we manage who's buying, and that is focused on everyday New Yorkers. So we are mindful of that, and so we're going to make sure that we have all the things in place to ensure that that does not happen.
And well, why?
That was a lie. Let's be absolutely clear. That is a bald-faced fucking lie.
Do you think that is? Well, because there's a budget implication. They need to make sure that the funds that the New York City government is spending on this ridiculous government handout ploy, that those dollars are going to residents of the city, and specifically the ones who have been narrowly deemed as eligible for the program. Well, that's basically the whole thing. It applies to voting as well. When budgets are being allocated, they need to be allocated with absolute confidence that the money is being spent on citizens. The government needs a way.
Well, I mean, you would imagine that, but the government has never really had, apparently, any kind of, issue with spending money on non-Americans. Just think of almost the entirety of USAID, right? Apparently, the government really likes spending American money on non-Americans, and it is a little bit fucking annoying, because you would imagine that, like, or at least the naive among us, not me, but the naive among us, would like to think that the United States would spend money primarily on, you know, Americans, but nah, I digress. That would make too much sense, but
to confirm and track proof of residency and proof of citizenship. And so you have the Senate budget argument, you have a clear 51 vote path forward with Reconciliation 3.0, and all that's missing, again, is simply lobbying your own party members, whipping the frickin' Senate in shape, and well, maybe, just maybe, as the pressure continues to mount as now 20 senators are signaling they want to bust up this recess, maybe, just maybe, John Thune might get his frickin' ass off his chair and actually do his damn job. Now, that of course still remains to be seen, and I'm highly pessimistic in general. I think this absolute clown show of a leader.
I mean, that's fair, right? Expecting, senators and, congressmen or governors or any of these other fuckers to actually do their goddamn job is a bit of a fool's errand, to be perfectly honest. Right? It's like some of these people actually do want to do their job, but there's no reason for them to do their job. Let's be fair. They have a decent amount of security in their position that they don't have to really fight for anything like this. So,
has already shown his true colors, but at least to a certain extent, the dominoes are falling, pieces are moving in the right place, and so I guess we'll see. We'll see if Scott Pressler and Mike Lee and all the other senators on board can get the job done. But one thing's for sure. There's a possibility, there's a path forward. Question is, will these outstanding rhinos rise up and do their patriotic duty or sell out the frickin' country? I guess we'll have to see. Anyways, that's what I got. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next.
I mean, I can't really predict the future, and I'm not going to pretend like I can, but there is a decent chance that they will absolutely sell out the country. So, yeah, that'll be the end of this episode. We had technical difficulties in this. That was ridiculous. But, that will be the end of this episode. Let me know what y'all thought in the comments. I didn't have as much to say this time because holy shit was I having technical difficulties, and that took me out of the conversation.